and welcome to IGPP Expert Talks. I'm Heena Goswami, editorial consultant with IGPP, Institute for Governance, Policies and Politics, New Delhi. India's neighbor, Pakistan, seems to be going through a series of crises, and there's no end in sight. Its economic crisis, coupled with a shaky democracy and its fondness for extremist elements, keeps India on tenterhooks. To understand the developments happening in Pakistan, its implications for India, we have with us Ms. Nirupama Subramanian. Ms. Nirupama Subramanian is National Editor, Strategic Affairs with India's leading newspaper, The Indian Express, and has extensively written on issues concerning India's foreign policy and national security. Welcome to IGPP Expert Talks.
Thank you.
So, the Supreme Court of Pakistan recently had ordered the arrest of Imran Khan, and then later he was released. He's free at the moment, but it does not seem that this is the end of troubles for Imran Khan, a former prime minister who came to power with the support of the Pakistan army. What is the tussle between the former prime minister and the army, and what is happening in Pakistan?
It's simple. He came to power in 2018 with the help of the army. He has been a long time project of the Pakistan army because at one time the Pakistan army had realized that it could not work with either the Pakistan People's Party or the Pakistan Muslim League, which ironically was also a creation of the Pakistan army. Nawaz Sharif was very close to the establishment, but he had also he had also kind of rebelled against the people who created him, and they had decided that they needed somebody else. So they had begun propping up Imran Khan as far back as 98, 99. And the time for him seems to have come in 2013 when Nawaz Sharif came back to power in Pakistan. And from that time onwards, we have seen a vigorous backing of Imran Khan by the establishment, whether it was through street protest, his main instrument, the main thing that Imran Khan has always deployed is street power. So street agitation. So coming out of the streets with his followers or joining others like the Tehreek-e-Labbaik or others who have wanted to kind of paralyze Islamabad. He's always been part of those protests, and I think the unseating of Nawaz Sharif as Prime Minister in 2016-17 was largely, it's called a judicial coup because the army was seen as behind it. And also because Imran Khan was leading a big movement against the alleged corruption of Nawaz Sharif. So the Panama Papers, Imran Khan's case in the Supreme Court, and the army's own efforts, they all came dovetailed and led to Nawaz Sharif's ouster. In 2018, when the elections were held, then the army did everything to help Imran Khan. They put together, they brought people into the party who could win. I mean, they're called electables because they could win elections, right? But they were in other parties, so they brought them into Imran Khan's party, or they created new parties that could ally with Imran Khan's party. So they cobbled together some kind of circumstances for him to win. And even then, he only scraped through, and then they had to put together a coalition. So the ISI, the army, they worked very hard for it. And Imran Khan was very fond of saying that we are on the same page. We finally you have a government where the government is not in opposition to the army. Like he was making a difference between himself and Nawaz Sharif because there was a tension always. There's no tension now. Me and General Bajwa, Kamar Javed Bajwa was then the army chief. We are on the same page. At the same page, government became like a mantra for him. Always he was saying that. But at some point, there was a divide. I think the army started losing its fascination for Imran Khan first because it saw him as incompetent. Although the army rules from behind the scenes, was ruling from behind the scenes, Imran Khan was not even able to do the minimum required to keep that project going. So Imran Khan, when he came to power, his main thing was to fix his political rivals, to fix people who were in the previous government or politicians that he did not like. Even within his own party, he was going at people. So he did not seem to have the attention span for governance or for political activity. But it was COVID. From 2020 there was that issue, and they could never put the economy together because the army does not know anything about the economy. They depend on experts, and usually the government has to provide somebody, but the government seemed incapable of that. So there were all these issues. So the army lost its liking for Imran Khan to begin with, and then there was also this huge movement, Pakistan democracy movement that the opposition had begun. The opposition had come together. They began that, and as it turned out, as the opposition heat grew, Imran Khan began to see individuals in the army as, or one individual in the army became very close to him. This was the ISI chief, and he tried to hold on to him as ISI chief, and that was his undoing, because I think the army as an institution doesn't like that one person in the top brass becomes very close to a politician, and they do not like it. Plus, the DGISI at that time was close to Imran Khan. He had sort of tainted himself internationally as well by going to Kabul soon after the Taliban takeover in 21, and he was seen in the Serena Hotel there having chai and telling everybody, no, it's all fine, we have everything under control. So kind of taking ownership for the Taliban takeover virtually, and I think that was a real a setback for the Pakistan establishment at that time. And I think all things put together, Bajwa wanted to move him out of the ISI, but Imran was very determined to hold on to him, and that the break then came, because although the Prime Minister has to sign off on the ISI appointment, it's the army chief who actually decides, he calls the shots. And Imran was not signing off on the transfer, and I think there was a battle of nerves there, and Imran finally blinked, and the ISI chief, there was a turnaround. And I think at this point, the PDM, which had been sort of, it had gathered momentum, then it had lost steam. But when they saw this rift, they said, okay, this is our moment, and they decided to move for a no confidence motion. And at that time, the army made it clear that they are not coming to rescue Imran Khan. And from there, the rift was in the open. Imran Khan lost that confidence motion, and it was very clear the army, and even in the last minutes of that no confidence motion, if you followed that, there was a lot of drama with him trying to speak to with the army chief and others speaking to Imran Khan to accept a defeat in the motion, not try to, not try to say that. I mean, he was trying various other sort of political moves at that time to prevent his ouster from office, and he was told in no uncertain terms that he should not try over that. So that's what I mean. That's how this enmity or this falling out between the army and and, and Imran Khan took place. And he openly soon after that he was openly blaming America. He was blaming the army. He was calling for a mutiny against Bajwa. All those things he was doing after his ouster. So yeah, that's.
So, the ruling coalition has alleged that the Supreme Court Chief Justice has a soft corner for Imran Khan, and that's why he has been given bail. So, how are the other two stakeholders, that is the ruling coalition and the Supreme Court, like placed in this power play?
So there are, different, as you said, stakeholders. They're called stakeholders. It's funny that the people are never described as a stakeholder. So when the Pakistanis say, all the stakeholders use the word idare. So and idara covers this word covers a lot of government or state arms organizations. One is the army, the other is the judiciary, the other is the third is the political class, meaning the political elites, basically the ruling elites of Pakistan. So these are the principal stakeholders in Pakistan. And as you mentioned, the Supreme Court is divided. The Chief Justice seems to be on one side, and many of the judges are on the other side, and he seems to be in Imran Khan's corner, which was, it's been talked about openly, and now there are, in this political battle, people are constantly releasing recorded messages of the rival camp. So you've had Mariam Nawaz and Shahbaz Sharif, their recordings made open about discussions about who should be the finance minister and why present that time's finance minister was an idiot and they need to replace him. That kind of conversation. And then you have the relatives of the Chief Justice in conversation about how Imran Khan is, how the country has to be saved from the Shahbaz Sharif and the army, and so rival. You get a taste of the intensity of the power struggle between these various institutions, as they're called, of the state. So yes, so on the one hand is the judiciary. On the other hand, ironically, the government, which is Shahbaz Sharif government, which is actually a coalition of many parties, mainly Pakistan Muslim League, headed by which is Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, as they call it. Nawaz Sharif still calls the shots. He's sitting in London. He's been in exile since that time, in 2018. He's been in London. But he has an influence over his brother. He controls the government. He controls who's appointed, who's not, and all that. And let's not forget that he was this guy who the army simply could not countenance because they always distrusted him. So that's one big formation in this government. The next is the Pakistan People's Party. Also, the relations between PPP and the government and the army have been completely they've been poor since the time of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and his execution, judicial execution. Then Benazir Bhutto, her assassination. And of course, Zardari's had a very, turbulent relationship with the army himself. So there's that formation, and then uh, there's this religious formation, is led by Maulana Fazlur Rahman. So these are the three big parties in the coalition, and each of those has had a bad history with the establishment, up and down, if you can call it that. And but ironically, at this time, they are with the army. So this is how the wheel has turned. That Imran, who always boasted about being on the same page as the army, is now completely on the other side of the fence. And the parties that always said, this army is horrible and they have, they don't let politicians function, they've ousted us, they've done all kinds of terrible things to us. I mean, they've done much more terrible things if you look at it to PPP and to PMLN. I mean, to Imran Khan, they've not done anything that dramatically terrible, yet. So they are now they're being seen on the same side as the army. In fact, in Parliament the other day, the Pakistan Muslim League moved a resolution which was adopted that all those who were responsible for the May 9th violence, the party that was responsible for the May 9th violence and its chief must be tried under the Army Act, which means like a military code. So military code is a dramatic, drastic thing for civilians. And you can now see that the parties that have screamed democracy, democracy, democracy are saying, let's try civilians under the military law. So there is, it's surreal a bit, but it's also in the nature of Pakistan. The cyclical turn of the wheel is also in the nature of Pakistani politics. It tells you that the army is a permanent ruling party, unelected, but it is a permanent ruling party. You can call the judiciary another big unelected party. Sometimes it rules, sometimes it does not, but it's there. And depending on which side it is seen on and how the configuration of judges is. So interestingly, in the Supreme Court, very soon there will be a change of guard. I think in September, a new judge will be elevated to as Chief Justice, and he has also a very uneasy relationship with the army. He's from Balochistan. His name is Faiz Isa, and he's in line to become the next Chief Justice. So that is another inflection point to watch out for when that happens.
So one of the things that you mentioned, that army deployed a street protest, in the earlier phase to portray Imran Khan as the
army didn't deploy. I mean, they were largely supportive of
the protest.
Happened. Yeah.
So now the protests are happening after the arrest of Imran Khan, and some of the protests, they also attacked army establishments. Does it mean that he enjoys mass support?
Yeah, I mean, Imran Khan?
Imran Khan.
It's been quite evident that he has managed to turn the people in his favor. When this is the irony of everything, is that this is the first time that a prime minister was removed through parliamentary procedure. Each time a prime minister has been ousted in Pakistan, it has been either by the judiciary, like Yusuf Raza Gilani was also convicted of contempt of court, and he was removed at that time. Nawaz Sharif was judicially, again, he was removed by the judiciary. Um, Others before him have been removed. Nawaz Sharif in 99 was removed by the army in a coup. Um, and so on. I mean, they've been dismissed by presidents. So, it's happened. Usually the army is behind all these removals, right? This is the first time that somebody was removed by a democratic procedure. You may call it, okay, not entirely transparent, and these things are not entirely transparent. People, there's some horse trading going on in the back. It's in many democracies in our region. This happens, but this, ironically, this is the one that he turned into. He managed to convince the people that this is the most unfair removal in Pakistan's history, right? Even though it was through parliamentary procedure, and he managed to win the support of the people, and he was completely, people are tired of him. By the time of his removal, he was he was extremely unpopular. It's his genius, charisma, whatever you call it, his whole standing in Pakistan, maybe from the time when he was cricket captain, and his achievements on the cricket field, and he's got this aura of somebody who can achieve things, who can make Pakistan better, who can do all that. It didn't happen during his term in office. People said he became unpopular. But when he got ousted in that way, and he seems to have lost army support, and again people rallied behind him, and he was able to sell these conspiracy theories to the people. Um, he was able to package it. He was able to call for a mutiny against the army, which a lot of people read as him as the savior of democracy in Pakistan. He's trying to alter the civil military balance in Pakistan, so he's the savior of democracy. But in effect, what was he saying really is that, I am so popular, right? He was messaging to the army. I am so popular. My problem with the army is the chief. And his two or three of his buddies who are carrying out his orders in the top brass. You rally, the rest of you rally behind me, right? And we will be together again on the same page. This was his messaging to the army. So when he was calling for people to revolt and all that, not against the army, it was against one or two chiefs. But you can't control every message. So what happened on May 9th was that people, usually you associate the army it's a unified entity. You see the chief only as a symbol. Uh, he symbolizes the entire army. So in their anger against, his anger against the army chief, the previous one and the present one, the people took that anger and translated it, turned it into mass anger against the army. So that moment, I think, kind of was unprecedented in a way. The way the people translated Imran Khan's anger against an army chief into anger against the army was something even Imran Khan may not have wanted, but it happened. And you saw some things being burned down, and the Lahore Corps Commander's house, and all those things are on television, and everybody saw that. So it's interesting how that happened, and it seemed that I must tell you that the Pakistan army in the country is a highly loved institution. People love the army there. Okay, they may have problems with the army once in a while, but they quickly get over it. So here, when they just went and started burning things and all, it seemed like there had been a breakdown of that relationship, complete breakdown. Which is why the army moved really fast. I think I've heard, but there's no way of saying that maybe more than 100 court martials within the army. The Lahore Corps commander, whose house was burned, he's been removed. These are all rumors. I'm not very sure whether it's fact or fiction. But one hears these not in the mainstream, not in Pakistan's mainstream media, in vlogs and other things. So this is the state of play. I mean, he's very popular. Even now, if there's an election, and he goes out and does his stuff, I'm sure he'll win. But I don't think he'll be allowed to contest.
So, when we sit and talk here and when we talk about the stakeholders, as we just did, people do not figure in the prominent list. Like, it's the army who is the permanent ruling party, or it's judiciary plays a large role. But people do that. Like, elections are held, and Pakistan people do go out and vote. So, despite their love for the army, do they see the democratic tradition and all the election as a farce, or do they really believe it to be like they really take it for something that will change their lives or their as a democratic tradition that their country is trying to uphold?
So there is, I think, Pakistan is still trying to become a full-fledged democracy. It is not a full-fledged democracy yet. I think there was a hope when Musharraf left power, and the shock of Benazir Bhutto's assassination, that there was this feeling among the political parties that they cannot let the army come back to calling the shots again. So when the first government was formed, nobody had a majority in 2008, February, and then the political parties said, no, we'll not allow the army to play any games here. We will come together. And so they formed a joint, government, a national government kind of. But there were bound to be differences between the parties and different approaches to how to run the country, and about key questions at that time, which included the judiciary and all that. And they soon they separated, they parted ways. But at that time, they were still not. The country was not so polarized as you see that. You see the country very polarized now, but it was not at that time. It was not still not so polarized. I think there is a feeling that maybe that democracy is a thing that can save this country, but there is also a feeling that we need the army. I think it's kind of a mixed thing. The civil, I mean, you have to look at the civil-military balance. I think when people have over 75 years, the army has played such a huge, massive role, even during times of civilian rule. As I said, ruling from behind, or if they don't like the civilians removing them, or having them removed by somebody else. So there is a feeling that the army has to play some role. Now, like you see now, even the traditional political parties that really oppose the army at one stage, they are holding on, they're clutching to the army because they think that is a way to get into power. And Imran Khan also, I was reading latest messages are that I will not negotiate with Shahbaz Sharif or the government, because that is not the real power in this country. The real power is the army. So I will negotiate only with the army. So I think there is a recognition that they still have to make that leap from being a semi-democracy to a full democracy. But yeah, elections are held, people vote, people have voted. Even the army loves elections because it legitimizes their own choices. It even legitimizes military rulers. For instance, Musharraf decided to have an election to legitimize himself. Okay, it was a completely rigged and sham election. Once that election was through, then he also put together a king's party. I mean, a party that owed allegiance to him. He hacked up with PPP and PMLN and put together something called PMLQ, Pakistan Muslim League 12. And he put that together and they ruled on his behalf. He was running the shots. He was calling the shots. He was running the government. But it was they who were the face. I mean, there was a prime minister. There was a minister for home and foreign and all that thing. So even the army loves to legitimize itself through this. This is not like Myanmar army, or who don't care about Aung San Suu Kyi or whatever. Uh, they call the shots all the time. And in fact, in Myanmar, the army has written itself into the political process. This is not like that. They want to be in the process, but they want to be seen also as a proper army, which stays within its constitutional role. Always pay lip service to that, while actually participating in the political process all the time.
So, uh, for a long time since Pakistan's independence, it seemed that for Pakistan's democratic leaders, either exile or martyrdom were the only two fate they were destined to meet. That has, like, I feel, sort of has changed in recent time, but Imran Khan has been alleging that there's a threat to his life. So, is this a gimmick that he's playing, or is the continued life of democratic leaders a positive development in Pakistan's democratic setup?
No, I mean, see, even as recently as 2018, you have there's an exiled leader, Nawaz Sharif. So I think there's no clear-cut answer to you know whether Imran Khan was right in saying that there wasn't an attempt on his life. There seemed to have it was apparently an attempt on his life. He got shot in the leg, and some bullets in his leg lodged. He says even now. Um, and so there is no clear-cut answer to this. And people have died, leaders have died in Pakistan before. So one can't say no, there is no threat to his life. There is probably a threat to any politician's life in many of our troubled democracies. This is why there's always a huge security and all that. So that much is obvious. Um, but I think Imran Khan would not like to be seen as a leader in exile. I don't think he wants to go that way. He still thinks he can stay in and battle it out if he can make a deal with the army. I think that is probably what he's trying to do. You also have to see that Pakistan itself is a very changed uh, place. The majority of the people are young. They are below 40 years or 45 years, I think. They are in that age group. And uh, there's a versioning middle class for the first time in the last 20 years. This middle class has grown. And it is in the army also. The army has always been a middle class institution. There are people in the army who have become middle class by virtue of being in the army because of the salaries, the promotions, all that. Um, they've been able to buy land, they've been able to get, so it's been an upward mobility avenue. for a lot of people in the army itself. And there is social media. So all this combination has changed things a lot in Pakistan and also given options to its political leadership in trying to see how they can make a go of it. And I think Imran Khan realizes that he's right in a way. You can finish me, you can, but you can't. You can finish my party because his party is now completely gone. Like 100 odd people have left his party, and they're about to form another party. I think one of the ex one of the ex leaders of his party has already announced the name also of the new party. I think it's called Khan in Pakistan. So they're already in the process of doing that, and this the army has only done. Army, by threatening, by arm twisting his party members, has taken away a lot of people from the party they helped form. They have now broken it, and they are now in the process of setting up this new party. Uh, but Imran Khan believes, and he may be right, that the people are still with me. So you can take away my party from me, but you can't take away the people from me. So for the first time, you see more discourse around people as stakeholders. How, what he really wants for those people, I'm not very sure. Because he is, I don't think his instinct is that of a Democrat. He's quite an I, me, myself kind of person. Within the party, he was not democratic within his own party, and even through I mean, the manner in which he railed against his constitutional movement suggests that he's not really thinking democratically. He did not attend parliament when he was in office. Hardly attended parliament. He hardly wanted to have any relations with the other parties, other political parties. What you see in normal democracies, normal fully functioning democracies, the give and take between political parties, the interactions between different political leaders for various things, for policy, whatever it is, you have to win over the opposition to your side. And you don't see Imran Khan doing that very much. So he's a bit of not a bit of, I think he's very much a megalomaniac. And he likes to, it's for him, it's my way or the highway. And so he's using the people, even when he now talks about people, they are instruments for him. And so we'll see how that turns out.
Other than this political crisis, Pakistan is also at an all-time high inflation rate, and its nearness to the at least geographical proximity at the moment to the Taliban regime. All these coupled together, what implication can it have, or does it have for India?
Yeah, I mean, India is Pakistan's neighbor, and whatever happens there is bound to have some kind of impact here. I don't think economically it will have an impact in India because India is not dependent on Pakistan or any of its neighbors for that matter for its economy. Maybe manpower from some countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, but otherwise you don't see the interdependencies like that economically. But I think there will be a security implication. A lot of people in India are very excited and very riveted by what's happening in Pakistan because they think Pakistan is about to implode. It's like little children, waiting for a pataka to burst. It's that kind of interest, and which I find laughable because if Pakistan has you know I don't think any state really implodes, but if people are waiting for it to implode, that implosion will be so big that it will have an effect right here. because, as you mentioned, Pakistan has also got all these security issues. There is a very uh, uh, Pakistan TTP, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. There is there are other manners of militant groups, terrorist groups, all of them hanging around. And these people love a vacuum, a political vacuum, um, and an organizational vacuum. They love that. And then it's anybody's guess how that will work out. And many of them have they see India as a target. So I don't think we should be um, uh, we should have this. A lot of Indians have this about Pakistan. Uh, they just love it that Pakistan is having these crises and it's going to implode and the Pakistan army is coming apart. I don't think these are miseries that we should wish on any neighbor. Pakistan or beat any neighbor. I don't think we should be wishing these things because, as I said, it has some, if not every implication, but some implications for us as well. And you can see how the civil war in Myanmar between the junta there and the people who are working for democracy. I mean, they've taken to the streets. It's civil war. The junta doesn't control the land, and you can see how that is playing out in our own conflict in Manipur, right? So I think we should be very careful about what we wish for, and I just find it really funny that grown men and women are wishing for an implosion in Pakistan. It's somehow, I don't know what to say. Yeah. In fact, now I'm seeing a lot of people in Pakistan because they have this economic crisis. A lot of people. I read an interview, not an interview, an editorial in Dawn, also a commentary by Zahid Hussain, saying we have to revisit our policy of not trading with India. In fact, there's a lot of thinking about India. What India did when it was on the verge of its default in 1991? How India handled the crisis? Can we learn from India? Can we see how they appointed this renowned economist, Dr. Manmohan Singh, as a finance minister to pull them out of this crisis? And there's a repeated reference to how India has not looked back since 1991. It is now, the third largest economy, although the size of the population kind of cancels it out. But there's repeated reference to that, saying let's learn lessons from our eastern neighbor and let's revisit this policy. What is this policy of not having trade with India when people everywhere else have learned to put aside their other issues, fundamental issues, and do trade because this is how nations live. So there is that, and if it comes to that, I think we should respond positively.
You have observed Pakistan for a really long
I
time.
have lived there. I lived there for 4 years. Yeah.
That's amazing. Where would you pin your hopes for a peaceful Pakistan amidst all this crisis?
No, a peaceful Pakistan is definitely one where it's fully democratic. Because democracies, they say don't go to war, right? They don't fight with each other. So our hopes as Indians should be to see a true democracy blossoming in Pakistan, and yes, for the army to withdraw from its dominating role in Pakistan's political processes. But for that realization to come from within Pakistan, that yes, they can't have the army to, if they believe in so much that India is out to get them, they can't get rid of the army, right? So they have to learn to. I think Pakistanis have to come to terms with the fact that India is a reality, that they cannot change borders in Kashmir, that this is not possible anymore, and that the army cannot help them do this. As long as they trust the army, as they invest their hopes in the army for them to get them Kashmir, or to carry out these proxy war operations in India, as long as they are dependent on the army to keep that enmity with India alive, the army will continue to play a dominant role within Pakistan. So I would say that a true democracy is one where all this changes, where the people see India as a neighbor, that they don't have to be, they don't have to love the neighbor. Many people live next door to each other without having to love each other. They're just civil, right? We should be civil to Pakistan. They should be civil to us. There should be exchanges. There should be visits should be allowed. There should be academic exchanges. There should be cultural exchanges. There should be all kinds of economic exchanges, trade, business. This is it. This is the normal course in which by which the world lives. Right? You don't have to love the neighbor, but as long as we can be civil to each other and put aside, and in India we have to learn to put aside this whole communal thing. I mean, where we see Pakistan as an extension of our own communal politics. I think we have to get rid of that. So we have to change in our thinking of interfaith relations. How we treat our minorities. I think we have to change a lot in that respect, and then we'll start seeing Pakistan as a neighbor with whom we can be civil. As long as we see it as an extension of our own Hindu-Muslim, Muslim-Hindu politics, we will not be able to normalize.
It's very insightful what you just said. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for giving us your valuable.
Thanks a lot for having me on your program.
Thank you, ma'am.